Crystal clear.
Morning, guys.
Yeah, looks good.
Perfect.
In
Right.
focus.
In focus. All right. Thanks, Jan. All right, guys. Morning, and thank you very much for joining us. Currie Cup action this weekend. I've got. Let's get this right now. Fidelity ADT Lions Currie Cup head coach Mziwakhe Nkosi and his captain Travis Gordon. Interesting fact, guys. These two have known each other since Travis was 12. Quite a while, yeah. So I guess coached him through his age group up until now. So yeah, let's go for questions, guys. We've got 15 minutes for this session. I've recorded it and I'll send the recording afterwards. I see Ashfaq, your hand is up, so we'll start with you.
Thanks, Sinani. So good morning, guys. Hope you're well. Mziwakhe, congrats on the team there. It's quite an interesting lineup. Some UFC players, but also a number of other guys who are quite experienced. Normally in the Currie Cup, some of the UFC franchises have to pick a lot of youngsters, but you've got a solid team there.
Yeah, Spark, I think we do have a solid team. There's probably a better mix than what we've seen in the past. If you look at a guy like Steve Versace, Ron Smith, a Currie Cup champion in Darren Landsberg, but also that's from an experienced team, or experienced type of a point of view. Then if you have a look at a guy like Renat Roots and Ron Delbo, who've been on the bench, so not too many people who know about them, but have really done well, and guys who've graduated from the junior ranks, having played in a under 21 cup final last year. So yeah, I think we've gone for a mix, and hopefully it's a really well infused mix.
And what's a realistic goal for the season? Obviously, every team wants to win the title, and that's the ultimate goal. But realistically, I mean, considering this team that you are able to pick now, and also I guess with the Lions UFC team not really being contention for player spot, there's still the outside chance. You can actually really pick a competitive side every week in the Currie Cup.
Yeah, Ashfaq, I think that's the first thing. We want to be competitive every week. That's the first thing. But the second thing is we want to go deep in the competition. Meaning, if you look at the Griquas last year in Easter, they weren't necessarily in the running, and before you know it, they were in the semis. They were in the semis. So I think that the whole point is to try and pick a competitive team each week, and then try and go deep in the competition. You never know what might happen. You look at the Cheetahs, it is probably a foregone conclusion that they're going to win, or so people thought that they're going to win the competition. And I think that the Pumas, with them picking a competitive team and they getting consistency in the team selection, that enabled them to go all the way and lift the trophy.
Thanks, Ashfaq. Jan?
Thank you. Obviously, last year there was this clear split, and this year it seems, and it's pretty obvious that all the teams are taking the Currie Cup a lot more serious. Is this a case for the Lions? Do you think there's definitely a bigger emphasis on the Currie Cup, and what would be the reason behind that?
Look, Jan, I think last year, number one, the timing of the Currie Cup was difficult for all unions. I think by this time last year, we played something like 4 or 5 rounds. I think the Currie Cup started on the 22nd of January, if I'm not mistaken. So I think with the excitement of the URC, sorry guys, please excuse our media guy. I was saying, I think with the timing of the Currie Cup, number one, last year, number two, the excitement of the URC, where the South African teams were on the table. I think there was a massive focus to make an impression in Europe. Not that there isn't this year, but I think most unions, if not all, have put their heads together in terms of working out, how to best manage the demands of the Currie Cup as well as the URC. I also think the scheduling is a whole lot better. If you look, there's a 2-week break before the next URC game. Thereafter, there's 1 or 2 weeks before EPCR games. So I think the scheduling also allows it also allows there to be rather, I'm looking for a diplomatic answer here, allows teams to pick franchises to pick stronger teams for the Currie Cup. So having said that, Jan, I think you're right. I think not most unions, if not all, are taking it a whole lot more seriously.
Travis, from a player's perspective, and I know if you ask somebody for their goals, I mean, obviously nobody ever goes on to lose, and everybody wants to win the competition. But what are the goals for the Lions players? I mean, we know the guys in the URC are struggling a bit, and they've had a couple of good wins, and suddenly there's a better as that atmosphere spilled over. And what are the goals for the Lions in the Currie Cup?
So the atmosphere is definitely spilled over. We've got a great vibe here with the Currie Cup. The guys are really enjoying each other's company, and it's a great team to be a part of. And then I think for the players, it would just be for me personally, it's just to win the next game, to make sure that we do our processes right, we achieve our goals for what you're trying to achieve in each game, and the result should then hopefully take care of itself.
Thank you.
Thanks for that, John. We'll go with Cole.
Travis, for those that do not know you, you were, if not the best captain during your schoolboy rugby days. What do you and your senior career has been hampered by a lot of injuries and everything. What do you want to get out of the Currie Cup this year?
As a player and as a leader, it would be just to try to pull this group as close together. It would be to be playing week in, week out, as every player wants to do, and to be playing good rugby. So as a captain, it'll be to try to pull the team together, make sure we've got a good vibe with guys moving up and down. And then as a player, it'll just be to go out there week in, week out and perform. So it'll be my goals for this year.
Great stuff. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Cole. I don't see any other hands. Any other questions, guys? Yes, Liam. We'll take Liam and then Ashfaq again.
How's it, guys? Thanks for the opportunity. My question is for Mziwakhe. Can you give us a sense of the type of rugby that we are likely to see from the Lions in this competition? Is there a huge emphasis on playing a fairly similar brand to what you play in the URC? Is that a sort of an obligation that you have, or can you sort of go out there and play a brand that you feel comfortable with?
Yeah, Liam, I think it's obviously a hybrid of the two. With players going up and down, I'm sure you'll appreciate that we've got to be aligned in terms of a brand of rugby that we've got to play. However, whilst I'm aligned and whilst I'm part of the collective, part of where I am is that I've also got an identity as a coach, and I've got to try and get that identity across to the team. And when the team is playing, the team's got to represent who I am as much as what we're aligned to doing and what this franchise is. So Liam, hopefully the ideal is that there's a hybrid of the two, but I've also got to be realistic and look at the player and personnel that I have at my disposal and what's happening. So, a guy like Jared Keynes sat on the bench for the URC last week. Delport, Ron Delport, played for the URC last week. So, it'll be counterproductive to have two contrasting styles or calls that are not aligned. That's just counterproductive to this Currie Cup team as well as the URC team.
You speak of your identity as a coach. Can you give us a sense then what that is?
Yeah, I think mine is very simple. I speak about, and it's a term that I use and the people who are coach will understand, and sometimes it's difficult to elaborate, but I speak about test matching to champagne. So it sounds a hell of a nice, but all it is it's working making sure that the fundamentals, be it set piece and all that stuff are ticked before we can, have the ability to spread the ball. And I think I've shown a demonstrated history for teams who play with the ball, who want to play and can run it, but that is a byproduct of mastering the fundamentals like set piece and quality defense and detail in attack and all sorts of things. That's just a term I use for the players to understand and to catch, but they know what I mean. So I hope I've elaborated myself on that term.
So it's more pragmatism before panache.
Yes, but not one before the other, but one with the other. To get to the one, you have to do this one first, and I think that applies to the game of rugby as a whole. Yeah.
Thanks.
Test match into Champagne. Ashfaq.
Just a few more from me, Mziwakhe. Just in terms of the approach, is this competition for the Lions more of a developmental one to sort of serve the URC, or is it a campaign on its own where you are your own team and you are out there to win the CURRIE Cup title?
Yeah, Ashfaq, that's I think if you look at myself, Joey, okay, Dobo and them are running theirs themselves. You know, if you look at Edgar Maratule, it's very difficult for us to operate in isolation. So, I mean, I'm going to sit here and say we want to win the CURRIE Cup, but the CURRIE Cup is for those franchises in particular, the CURRIE Cup is to serve. I mean, I read in the news somewhere that, you know, Hafiz Fourie was saying he's prepping for the EPCR. So, you know, I think the CURRIE Cup's timing and its aim and goals across all the unions is much publicized. So, you know, ours is to serve the URC. It's important that we serve the URC. You know, a guy like Krapi as an example, Mone van der Berg, who, you know, Sanele's form has warranted his start, and Krapi hasn't got any game time. So we're really happy for him to play for us. But we're also aware that in a week or two's time, he's going to, you know, go back to the URC. So we've got to keep a guy like Nico Steyn alive, Felix Carstens alive. So you're sort of chasing two goals. You've got to serve, but you've also got to try and be your own team and try and go as deep as possible into the competition.
And finally, Travis, what do you expect from Western Province? They've also obviously done really well as the Stormers in URC, but I'm sure their squad could look quite different on Saturday.
Yeah, I haven't yet seen the squad, but we know kind of what type of rugby they're going to play. It's going to be very, very similar to what the Stormers are doing. And we've prepped the whole week knowing what we're going to do and trying to achieve what we're going to do. So we know Province can run the ball. We know they've got a good kicking game. So we just got to stay in the fight and do our job.
Okay, Jan, and then Simon.
Thank you, Mziwakhe. Sorry, I know this is the CURRIE Cup, but in general, in the squad in general, can you give us a sense of any major injuries perhaps, or guys that are not, or that might be not available this week and the next few weeks?
Yeah, so a guy like JC Pretorius is not available. He's in the last part of his reintegration into 15s. It's been quite a change for him to go from the 7s into 15s. So, you know, to be fair to him and to give him a fair shot at the 15s, we've probably been guilty of blooding him too early. So, you know, we've taken a decision to just give him a real good reintegration into 15s, and that's going really well. In fact, we've just come from his appraisal in terms of how he's reintegrating, etc. And then from an injury point of view, we pretty much, you know, as healthy as we can be, give or take one or two niggles that aren't worth reporting, and guys will be back in a week or two's time. But we're pretty much healthy at the moment.
You talk about JC. There was a request from the Sevens team that he returns there to help them out in the hour of need. Have you guys considered that?
Yeah, I think that's up for consideration. We've got to weigh up what's best for his interests. That decision will probably be taken, you know, soon. I haven't officially seen that there has been a request. I know there was a request for Canada, but he just made the transition to 15s. So that was a bit difficult. We played him in a couple of hit outs, so just to see where he's at. So that made it difficult for him to join them in Canada. I heard Sandile Ngobo speak about a request that was made from SA Rugby. So officially, I haven't seen it. I haven't discussed it with Ivan or Rudolph. So, you know, we'll, as and when that, if it is official, as and when that appears, we'll obviously consider it and discuss it. Obviously, they're a national team, and we look to help them out. But for JC himself, in fact, the last 15s game he played was against the Lions under 21. So, you know, that's a long time for JC. He hasn't had the fortune like Sabelo Senatla or Roscoe Spigman of, you know, bouncing in between the two 7s and 15s. So it's been quite the adjustment for him. So, you know, to be fair to the player himself, we've got to give him a reasonable amount of time and preparation so that he can make the jump. Being a forward being a front row in the 7s and being a loose forward in 15s, there's a significant difference between the two.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jan. Simon and then Paul.
Thanks, Jan. So, hi guys. Just a little bit of clarity as far as your training regime is concerned. I've spoken to another franchise and they said that the Currie Cup is quite isolated as far as the training and cross-pollination of training is concerned. Do you guys share the training field, so to speak, with the URC guys? Is there cross-pollination, having used that word, with ideas and obviously your coaching team and stuff and planning? Or is it pretty much a seriously focused regime for you to go out, do the Currie Cup thing, and give it a shot at the title?
Yeah, we've adopted a different strategy this year. In that there's a hell of a lot of cross-pollination, and we think part of the recent success of the URC team is the fact that there's cross-pollination. There's the Currie Cup team versus URC, so that's created an incredible amount of competition amongst the greater squad as a whole, for the franchise. But obviously, every now and again, if you take this week, we only trained Monday against the URC, and then Tuesday and Thursday we train by ourselves. They're obviously on leave, and upon their return next week, that cross-pollination will resume. So, you know, the program is also obviously around what are the needs for both teams. But yeah, there's definitely a hell of a lot of cross-pollination.
Lastly, there's a big hype being made in certain levels of the media about this Currie Cup that has to be blown life into it because of the fear of getting stale and it's getting another competition. How do you guys see it? How as a franchise do you guys see it? Obviously important, otherwise you wouldn't have been there, and you've got your contractual arrangements and agreements that you have to be there as well. But do you see it elaborating a little bit and developing? I know that you've spoken about development and development of certain players. Is it a new era for a new kind of player, a new breed of player, a new type of rugby player that might be servicing the union and obviously aspire for greater titles and exposure forward? Just speak about that a little bit.
Let's take it from a player perspective, and then we'll get a coach's perspective.
As a player, obviously there's massive opportunity. For us, it's about being on the field and competing at the highest level. So this Currie Cup is going to be a very, very competitive competition just by looking at the teams that have been announced. And I think as a player, it gives us the opportunity to showcase our talents and show what we're about. So yeah, so for me as a player, it's still as prestigious as a competition as it's always been. The goal is always to have one of those little mugs, you know, one day in your bar. So yeah, for me as a player, it's still the big Currie Cup. I'm still excited to play, and I'm really excited to showcase talents. So that's my view.
Yeah, I think taking the pragmatic view, and players are always excited to play in whatever competition you set them out to play. I think we've got to have a look and see what the timing looks like of the Currie Cup. I think we've got to evolve as a nation. I think we mustn't be, I use the word archaic, and hold on to the game is evolving, and hold on to past I guess times that we in our minds have created and nostalgia. I think the Currie Cup is a hell of important for this country. I compare it to I don't know what it's called now, but the New Zealand the NPC, so to speak. That is, if you look at the team sheets of Super Rugby over the last 2 weeks, that's been an incredible and massive feeder into the Super Rugby. And likewise, I think the Currie Cup can play that type of role, in that it can unearth the new generation type of player. But the other thing is, and I think, funny enough, John Dobson said it, our counterpart for tomorrow, was that he was a hell of a proud to coach Western Province. And for him, that is, I use his words, the zenith of his coaching abilities. And for guys like us who've coached at every level at the Lions Rugby Company, I wouldn't say it's the zenith, but I think it's really special for us to be coaching Currie Cup. And I imagine it's special for guys like Travis to be playing, to have represented the union at the 13, under 16, under 18 and 19, 21, and now Currie Cup level. So you know, without taking away that, it's still a hell of a special competition from the rugby point of view.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much. Carl, we'll give you the final one for the morning.
Thank you so much, Nyanisu. This question is for both. Nyanisu mentioned the long relationships that Travis and Mziwakhe has had over the years. How important is that relationship, and what's the advantages of that relationship going into the CURRIE Cup competition?
Yeah, I think I don't think we must take too much of the relationship that we've had. I think it's part of it is coincidental. I've coached at representative level at the franchise for a while, and he's obviously a born and bred Joburger. Notwithstanding that, he's obviously got incredible leadership abilities. I think someone alluded to it earlier. I think it was you, Carl, to have captained the franchise at every level. 13 Grand Como, Craven Week, the 1921s, captained the SA schools. But for injury, probably would have captained the junior Springboks. So that in itself says is a guy who's got good leadership. The fact that we've got a working relationship and have a history is obviously a hell of a plus. He can embody what I am on the field. So that's a hell of an advantage. But yeah, but like you said, you know, the proof is in the pudding, and he's got a lead in the ability that he's got, and he's got to try and get this group close and to follow him. I don't think he'll struggle doing that, but the proof is in the pudding. He's got to get it done. And yeah, I'm fortunate to have a guy who I can easily relate to as a captain. But there are a whole variety of other captaincy candidates. I look at Darren Landsberg. You know, he's a guy with real immense leadership qualities. Tyler Box is probably a bit young, but he's a guy who will probably captain the franchise in the future if he stays here. So yeah, I think we're fortunate with one or two guys who are talented from a leadership point of view.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks for that, Carl. I don't see any other hands, so are we okay? All right, thanks very much, guys. Z,
Okay.
Travis, thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks a lot.
Good luck.
Thank you.